So here I'm going to compare three time-lapse cameras, the Brinno TLC200, the 200 Pro, and then a third option using a laptop and a webcam. All of these will happily record in a widescreen HD format, that is 1280 by 720. The short version is, unless you're desperate, stay away from the Brinno TLC200. The lens quality and choice is just terrible compared to the other options. It's just far too narrow angle. Trust me, I've got two of them. Long story. So I'm going to start out with just a test of running these things for a day with these three cameras. In each case, it's going to take one frame every 5 minutes. So first, the TLC200. Okay, so don't worry about the thing covering up the lens in the top right. That was just me being an idiot. However, what's clear is the camera is a relatively very narrow angle and it can't be focused. Plus, it's not that good at low light levels. And this becomes very clear when you compare it to the 200 Pro. So this is the two side by side. The 200 might be about half the price of the 200 Pro, but trust me, just don't waste your time. So is the 200 Pro any good? Well, compared to what? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to compare this to an ultra wide angle webcam and a netbook running some time-lapse software. And the answer is that's actually pretty good. So when we compare these side by side, we see that the netbook with the wide angle camera is pretty good. It also shows up some of the funny distortions which you get with these wide angle lenses, where you can see that the house has been distorted into a rather funny shape by the 200 Pro. Okay, so let's go over the advantages and disadvantages of both. The 200 Pro's principal advantage is that it's a small, self-contained unit. That's it. That's everything you need to take time-lapse for days to weeks. While with a netbook, obviously, you can only run it for about 10 or so hours without needing a power supply. Okay, now the downside of the TLC200 Pro. First of all, everything's going to be done on this crappy little screen, which makes the manual focus more tricky and fiddly compared to doing it on a netbook screen. The software I got for running this, I got a long time ago, and it's called Animated DV, and I really don't know that much about the current quality of time-lapse software for computers. But it'll probably give you fairly good control over the webcam, over such things like how frequently you grab the frames and control over the webcam. But that means that what you end up with at the end of the day is just a series of images. That's not bad in itself, in that those can be imported into most video editing software. However, when you get up to something like 50,000 frames or something, copying those over can be quite a pain in the ass. Meanwhile, with the TLC200 Pro, it automatically stitches all of those frames together into a video file, which can be immediately played. Those files can also be read by the default Windows video editing software of Windows Live Movie Maker. My version of Sony Vegas, however, will not read those files directly. Now, probably my biggest bugbear with the TLC Pro is you can't tell if the batteries are about to die or if the camera's died completely, because once you set it running, there's no way to see if it's running away happily. The screen just goes black and you enter to trust it that it's doing what it's meant to be doing. Now, technically, a little green light is meant to flash whenever it takes a picture. However, practically, if you're taking a frame every 5 minutes, this means that you have to watch the camera for 5 minutes to see if it's taking a picture or not. There is no way where you can get an instant readout of how much battery life is left in it. However, with a laptop, you actually see that the frame grabbing software is still running away happily. Now, it is possible to run the TLC200 Pro off a micro USB cable, but one isn't supplied with a camera, and if you're running very long time lapses, that's almost certainly the way to go, because if you're taking a picture every hour or something, it's just not practical to see if the camera is running or not. So what are you looking at in terms of costs? Well, currently the TLC200 Pro is a couple of $100, which is sort of expensive for what it does. It's essentially a dedicated time-lapse camera. However, it's a self-contained, off-the-shelf unit that does the job acceptably well. The wide-angle webcam, by comparison, is only about $50 and gives a fantastically wide-angle view and a good image. However, in order to run it, you need a netbook with a camera for as long as you're going to run the time-lapse. And if you're planning to run the time-lapse for as long as a year, like I was, that basically ties down the netbook. So a summary of all of this. Well, there are links to all of the products that I've discussed and their availability on my blog. But briefly, the TLC200. Honestly, if I had the choice now, I wouldn't even look at it. The 200 Pro is expensive for what it does, but it's small, compact, easy to run, and with USB power can run for a whole year discreetly and relatively cheaply. The netbook with a wide-angle camera does do a better job, however it'll tie down your netbook for the entire time that you're running the time-lapse, plus it's more bulky and has more cables.